Hello, everyone. My name is Erica Washington Miyakuni, and this time I will be discussing social media and its effect on youth mental health. So, again, I am a licensed clinical professional counselor in the state of Illinois and a licensed mental health counselor in the state of Indiana. And we're going to continue. So, just so you have some information about how social media is affecting children, there is not any like specific statistics that they have right now just because this is so new. Even though, yes, the internet has been around for a while, they haven't really done a lot of, studies on the effects of social media and youth mental health. So this is more based on some of the anecdotal evidence that has come up over the years that people have, that clinicians have put forward. So social media, of course, has its good and its bad aspects. Many parents find or feel actually that it is harder to parent now than it was, back in the 80s or before there was like current steady internet. And this is because they feel like there is like all this potential exposure to explicit materials and negative people who could be coming after their children. So that is like one of the biggest concerns of parents out there. So, there is a lot of exposure. If you think about it, you have games that have social media platforms, you have things like Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all these things that now open up your children to not only the possibilities of good things, but also the possibility of some very negative things. So, all of that exposure just poses a great risk. One of the main ways abusers are finding their victims is through social media. You can pretend to be whoever you want. When you're on social media, you can put up somebody else's pictures. You can figure out how to speak in the voice of a young person. And you don't always know who you're interacting with, which is why most of the time, they caution people to only really interact with people that they know. Well, we know that social media is not just about interacting with people that we know, it's about meeting new people that could also now be friends and social supports and things like that. So that's where it gets kind of tricky. So you have things such as YouTube and TikTok, as well as other sites that are supposed to be geared towards, have things that are geared towards children. And some of the not so great things that have happened is that you'll have a video, and the video will, it'll sound like a kid's video, it'll be great. And then some point in that video, when they feel like, okay, parents have probably walked away, something else then comes up in the middle of the video. And with the parent not around, now this child is watching something or hearing something that can be scary, can be explicit, things like that. So that's something that has been an issue on even YouTube Kids. And, I find myself whenever I have a young child that I'm dealing with, I make sure that I'm sitting right there with them while they're watching that video because I have, heard strange things just start to happen in the middle of the video. And so now I make sure that I'm paying attention. Um, 95% of youth between the age of 13 and 17, and 40% of youth between the age of 8 and 12 are reported to use social media. So that is a lot of children and adolescents that are not only exposed to each other, but they're also exposed to any adult that's out there. During this time, the age period between 10 and 19, brain development is very critical. And this is because this is the time that people are starting to form their identity. They're really, really looking to their peers to see like what's in, what's trendy, how can I be cool, that kind of thing. And so they look to social media to find out what the new trends are. That's why you have these crazy trends that are going on where children are hurting themselves because they're trying to participate in some new challenge that is just ridiculous. Like the Tide Pod challenge, where they're eating the Tide Pods, or the crate challenge, where they're trying to walk up all these stacked up crates, and people are seriously injuring themselves. So some of the potential outcomes for youth who spend more than 3 hours per day on social media are depression, anxiety, inattentiveness, impulsivity. Okay. If you think about what is available on social media, they're seeing these influencers. They're telling them how they want to live, how they should look, what they should eat or drink, how they should lose weight. Honestly, from every aspect of life, they are giving them these images of what is supposed to be, the perfect way to be, right? We all know there's no such thing. At least I hope we do. So what happens is youth wind up with body image issues, disordered eating, low self-esteem, poor sleep habits, insomnia, and higher depressive symptoms. So a huge risk of social media is something that, is huge even just in school, right? Is bullying. So you have the cyberbullying, which is, you're on social media, you post something, and people then come under your post and say very negative things towards whatever you have posted out there. They may, like I've seen people even do up to death threats just over some of the innocent things that people post on Facebook just because they don't agree with them. And people get very, very angry and irate, and they're sitting behind a keyboard and they don't care what they say because they don't feel as if they're going to have any kind of consequences. Any image that you share on social media, unfortunately, I know I see people who they share those posts like, oh, you can't use my pictures for blah blah blah, but regardless of any of that, that means absolutely nothing. Once your picture is out there, it is out there for people to utilize. And so what needs to happen is you need to make sure that you limit whatever things you are posting out there, because once it's out there, people can get it. I don't care what kind of privacies they have on there. If somebody really truly wants to get it and they know how to hack, they will get it. Okay. So, just think about things like there are gifts out there, and we see these gifts and we're like, oh, this is cool. This really expresses how I feel. A lot of these gifts are taken from videos of people that they've taken snippets of these videos and created these gifts. There's a young boy who he's kind of heavy set, and he has this gift where he's kind of just looking like, okay, I don't know what's going on. This doesn't make sense. Well, that boy, came on and he talked about how, people found him on social media and he really was not looking for all of that attention. And he got a lot of negative and positive things that made him want to leave off of social media. And so this is like one of the possibilities of what could happen if you're on social media. Another thing that I really want to stress is that there are a lot of children who are exchanging new pictures and things like that through the chat, and they do not understand that they can get in trouble for dissemination of child pornography for sending their picture to another child. I have stressed this, I don't know how many times when I talk to youth, that this is a crime and they can get in trouble and go to jail for it. So please, talk to your children about the importance of not sharing any type of image of them without their clothing on and things like that to anyone, because one, it can be spread around, and two, they can get in a lot of trouble for sending a new picture even if it was requested. But just because they sent it, that will be on them. So now that we have talked about all of the negative things about social media, let's talk a little bit about the positive things. So, one of the positive things about social media is the social part. You have a lot of children, a lot of youth who are very socially awkward. They have a very hard time engaging with people in person. They get very anxious. They don't know what to say. But a lot of times, being behind a screen, being behind a name, that can be plucked from anywhere, can help them to just be a little bit more open about who they are, about what they need, about what they want. It helps them to connect with people around the world who they may have never ever interacted with if they hadn't have had social media. There are a lot of people who never leave out of their communities, let alone out of the state or out of the country. And this opens people up to new possibilities for existing, for interacting. And so, this becomes very important. You have the LGBT plus group, where there's a lot of hatred towards that group. And online, a lot of teens and adults, young adults, everybody, they find a community online because in their community, maybe that is completely taboo. In their family, that may be completely taboo. And so, in order for them to have some sense of normalcy, some sense of community, they have these online communities. And that's not the only one. There's a dozens, or no, not dozens. There's hundreds, probably thousands of different types of communities that people can engage in on these social media platforms. You have people who are disabled who are trying to find other people that they can converse with and learn how to be more social and things like that. You have religious groups where you have people where you can get together and you can talk about your religion and your experience of it and things like that, without any ridicule, without any hatred and things like that. So there's so many things that can happen with social media that can be positive. The biggest thing is going to be how you use it. I hear so many people talk about, like, oh, I hate Facebook, or I hate Instagram, or I hate all these different things. And part of the issue is boundaries. they don't have any boundaries on their page. They accept anybody that requests them as a friend. They post about things that they really should not be posting if they don't want somebody else to comment on it. Because once you put it out there, people are going to comment. They don't learn how to use their privacy controls. They don't, they don't silence people when they need to. They just have really bad boundaries. And most likely they have bad internet boundaries. They probably have bad in-person boundaries, and that's a whole nother subject to talk about. But just know that this is extremely important to have, so that if you want to use social media and not have all the drama and the issues, you really have to understand your own boundaries first and then put them into place. So, as you think about allowing your child to be on social media, there's some things that you can do, such as limiting the time spent on social media, monitoring who they are interacting with, regularly discussing with them the reason why it's important to pay attention to these things. Having open dialogue, allowing them to ask you questions, allowing them to have the space to feel comfortable to talk to you about something that might be going on online. Those are all ways that you can combat all of the negative things that are happening online. The more involved you are, appropriately, we don't want to be a helicopter parent. We talked about that in the generational trauma. You want to be able to allow your child to have some autonomy, make some decisions, understand what they need and what they want, but then also be willing to come to you when they're struggling and say to you, hey, this is happening to me online. What should I do? Does this sound okay? Should I make some changes or whatever might happen? Allow that free conversation, and there will be a lot more dialogue from them, letting you know like what they may or may not be struggling with when it comes to social media. I hope that that was very informative to you, and that as you go forward, you understand the dangers as well as the positive things about social media, and help your child to have a better experience online. Thank you and have a great day.